Welcome to TPM Vid's Disney Beat, where we talk about all things Disney. If you're new to the channel and like what you see, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. You can also find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Over the years at Walt Disney World, we've seen many attractions come and go. Although they're no longer around, you're able to find many tributes, Easter eggs, and leftover relics of the old attractions in the new attractions. There is a lot of theme park history to explore, so let's count down 5 hidden secrets of defunct Disney World attractions. Number 5. Just off Grand Avenue at Hollywood Studios, you can find Pizza Rizzo in Grand Park. The restaurant opened in November of 2016, and they serve what they boast as the best pizza on the planet. Whether it's actually good pizza is neither here nor there, but what really matters is what's written on the sign. When you look at this section, what's the most prominent thing that stands out? Well, it's pretty evident, but they want us to see the words pizza and planet. You can barely see the other words, and that's because the white Pizza Planet text is a little tribute to this building's former life as Toy Story Pizza Planet Arcade. It originally opened in December of 1995, but unfortunately, it didn't look anything like Pizza Planet from the film. There were tons of arcade games on the ground floor with additional seating upstairs. Prior to becoming Pizza Planet, the Metropolitan Department of Water and Power building was originally a props exhibit called Studio Showcase. Now, what's interesting to note is that back when Disney was building and developing what was previously known as Muppet Courtyard, the area was supposed to be home to 2 Muppet-themed restaurants. Where Mama Melrose is today, well, that building was planned to be a table service restaurant called the Great Gonzo's Pandemonium Pizza Parlor. Then the old Water and Power building was supposed to be a quick service restaurant called the Hard Luck Cafe. As a spoof on the Hard Rock Cafe, this restaurant would be themed to Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. By this point in 1990, Disney was already in talks with Jim Henson to purchase the Muppets. Michael Eisner had all these plans to incorporate them into the theme parks. But in May of 1990, Jim Henson suddenly passed away. Since nothing had been signed previously with Jim Henson, his estate and Disney were not able to come to final agreements for the Muppet acquisition. The deal officially fell through in December of 1990, and after some lawsuits, pretty much all the plans for the Muppets had to be scrapped. Muppet Vision 3D at Disney MGM Studios was the only attraction Disney was allowed to open. It wasn't until 2004 when Disney officially acquired the Muppets, and after 25 years, this building finally became a Muppet-themed restaurant like it was originally intended. The Pizza Planet Arcade was born so Pizza Rizzo could run, although I wish Disney would have built the actual Pizza Planet from the film. The entrance to Alien Swirling Saucers is probably the closest we'll ever get, so at least Pizza Planet is still preserved and remembered here at Hollywood Studios. Number 4. Walking through Asia at Disney's Animal Kingdom immerses you right into the fictional village of Anandapur. It's here in the village that you can find the Anandapur Theater, home to feathered friends in flight. Variations of the show have been around since April of 1998, which have always featured these mesmerizing free-flying birds. Now, if you look just outside the theater, you can find these stone statues of Doug and Russell from Disney Pixar's Up. As I was filming, I heard this little girl ask her dad why they were there, and the dad said it was weird and had no idea why. I'm sure there's quite a few people who share this sentiment. I mean, they do look out of place in this area of the park, but that's because they're a leftover remnant of the short-lived Up, a Great Bird Adventure. To celebrate Animal Kingdom's 20th anniversary, Up, a Great Bird Adventure opened in April 2018, replacing the original show Flights of Wonder. Doug and Russell, along with the host Anika, shared the stage with the various bird species.
My hair sticks up like that, my mom makes me brush it.
But putting costumed characters in a bird show was an odd choice. It was really ironic, though, that they didn't include Kevin, which is the only bird in Up. Well, anyways, the show was not received as well as Disney had hoped, so in September of 2019, the host Anika was replaced with Troop Leader Jones. The character brought some humor back into the show, and although it was an improvement, Up a Great Bird Adventure still wasn't as good as Flights of Wonder. The biggest issue were the costume characters. They just didn't fit in.
Hi there. Hello, Doug. Oh, I should have warned you. He's a talking dog.
Here, the birds are the show, but Disney was insistent on making the characters the show.
Really?
Well, fast forward to July of 2020 as Walt Disney World prepared to reopen after the COVID closures. The world was now a much different place, and health and safety measures were constantly changing. Many of the different unions were in negotiations with Disney as they prepared to reopen, but they faced some challenges with the American Actors Equity Association. Any roles at the resort that have performers speaking or singing live, like Troop Leader Jones, are members of Actors Equity Association. They actually represented 750 performers at Walt Disney World. Well, Disney was not complying with their request for regular COVID testing, and until an agreement was reached, Disney could not open any show that involved equity performers. So Disney temporarily replaced Up a Great Bird Adventure with a modified show called Feathered Friends in Flight. It's been open now for over 3.5 years, and I would say Feathered Friends in Flight is the best version of the bird show in Animal Kingdom's history. I always hate seeing equity roles cut from the parks, but now the main focus is just the trainers showing off the birds' behaviors, with a bit of comedy sprinkled in. You don't need an elaborate story and characters, and sometimes people just want to see birds do tricks. I gotta say, it's a very entertaining show, and this is one of the few good changes that were brought on by the pandemic. If you haven't seen the show yet, definitely check it out, but today these statues of Doug and Russell continue to live on as remnants of another short-lived show at Animal Kingdom. Number 3. Back in September of 2023, Figment began meeting guests in Imageworks at the Imagination Pavilion. Figment, along with the Dreamfinder, actually began as meet-and-greet characters when Epcot first opened in 1982. When the original Journey into Imagination ride opened in 1983, it was an instant hit, and it became the most popular ride at Epcot. It was just full of so much whimsy, and it really captured the power of the imagination. Journey into Imagination is dearly missed, but thankfully, Imagineers tasked with designing the Figment meet and greet included many tributes to the original pavilion and ride. First up are some audio tributes. So when Figment comes out of the Dreamport, this is what you hear. Now, these are all recycled pieces of dialogue recorded for the character of Figment over the years. 2 of these lines are actually from the first scene with the Dreamfinder and the Dreammobile in the original ride. So in the audio mix, you'll hear Figment say, which comes from, "Are we almost there?" And then, "Come on, everybody," also comes from the same scene.
Come on, everybody, let's go!
Imagination.
Now, in terms of the actual meet and greet backdrop, well, this pays tribute to the very first scene on Journey into Imagination. The ride began as you floated through the clouds and were met with a silhouette of the Dreamfinder riding the Dreammobile. The exact same jagged lines that make up the clouds and the Dreammobile silhouette were recreated here in the new backdrop. Thank goodness the Dreamfinder hasn't been completely forgotten about, because since they removed him from the ride, I don't think he's ever appeared in the park since. I would love to see them bring him back in a new version of Journey into Imagination. Wouldn't you? Then on the right-hand side of the proscenium, there's a glowing paintbrush painting a rainbow. Well, this pays tribute to the art scene where the Dreamfinder used a giant fiber optic paintbrush to bring a massive painting to life.
From twilight hours, green summer hills, and rainbows play a part. A painter's brush, a walk upon.
Then to the left of the meet and greet area, there's a screen playing a bunch of animated segments of Figment. Well, these are a mixture of animations from the original ride and from Imageworks. The sequences of Figment putting his face into the screen and him floating were all taken from the science scene.
Let's look at nature at this speed. From germination, then back to seed. You skyrocket
Then all the other sequences were recycled from the 1991 Mirage exhibit in the original Imageworks upstairs. Now in the meet and greet video, there's static between each of the clips, and that's because this whole video was taken from the current ride. When you're going through Figment's house, it plays this sequence on the TV in the living room. Clearly, the Imagineers who were tasked with designing the meet and greet space were huge fans of the original Journey into Imagination. After taking another look at the ride-through for this video, it's evident that it was an ambitious masterpiece. Although at the time it was the most expensive ride to operate at Epcot, it was a timeless piece of art that would still hold the test of time today. I mean, Disney has done everything now with the characters aside from announcing a reimagining and refurb of the ride. Just imagine if they updated and recreated the original ride with new modern technology. The biggest issue the original ride had was the complexity of maintaining all the projectors, mechanics, and special effects. Today, all those problems would be no issue for Imagineering to solve. A reimagining of Journey into Imagination could very well become one of the biggest moments in Epcot history.
That's right, Figment. And every sparkling idea can lead to even more.
Number 2. Staying at Epcot, Maelstrom opened with the Norway Pavilion in July of 1988. This water-based dark ride took you through many scenes depicting the spirit and charm of Norwegian culture. There was everything from the mythical trolls of the Viking days, along with the polar bears of the Arctic and the oil rigs of the seas. Since it was only one of 2 physical rides in World Showcase, Maelstrom continued to bring guests through the door, but Disney had other plans for the ride. In October of 2014, Maelstrom closed to make way for Frozen Ever After. The animated film was widely successful, and this was the quickest way Disney could get a Frozen ride into the parks. Now, there is a stark contrast between the reality of Maelstrom and the fantasy world of Frozen. I mean, one of these things is not like the other. But as you make your way through the ride's queue, Imagineers left us some little tributes of the now defunct Maelstrom to discover. 2 of the most memorable parts of Maelstrom were the scene with the giant polar bear and the scene with the 3-headed troll.
Disappear! Back over the bars!
Well, here in the Frozen queue, as you make your way into Oaken's trading post, it's hard to not get distracted by Oaken in the sauna.
I like to go on hikes too, yeah?
So as soon as you walk in, make sure you look up to the right-hand side of the loft, because it's here that you'll find a little figurine of a polar bear standing on its back legs, just like how it was on Maelstrom. Then if you look to the right of the desk, you'll find this 3-headed troll carrying a staff. Again, exactly like the troll from the ride. And that's not all. When you get assigned your row and make your way into the loading area, take a look behind you to find this information board. It may not appear to be important, but if you look at the warnings, it says there's a Maelstrom warning for the Southeast Bay of Arendelle. Obviously, this is another tribute to the now defunct ride, and if you didn't know, a Maelstrom is a powerful whirlpool, so Arendelle better be careful. Then while you're on the ride, there are 2 recycled relics left over from Maelstrom. Remember those trolls? Well, this is where Elsa's Let It Go scene is today. If you look above, that swirling light effect on the ceiling was actually used in the old troll scene, and Imagineers just kept it in place. The last recycled relic is from the polar bear scene, where you were able to find these 3 puffins on the left-hand side. Well, on Frozen Ever After your ship passes Marshmallow and heads down the drop, you'll find these 3 recycled puffin animatronics on the right-hand side. Recycling these figures into the snowy mountains outside of the Arendelle Castle, as well as all the other tributes, reminds us that the spirit of Maelstrom still lives on at Epcot. Number 1. Over in Fantasyland at Magic Kingdom, Under the Sea Journey of the Little Mermaid sits on the now-defunct site of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It was an original 1971 opening day attraction, and initially the ride was very popular. But on Labor Day in 1994, the attraction closed suddenly. It turns out Disney was planning a major refurbishment, but much to their surprise, a lot more work was needed than they thought. If they used the original refurbishment plans, ADA required Disney to make the submarines compliable to accommodate wheelchairs on the ride. This additional cost was not in the budget, so in early 1996, they decided to go through with a minor refurbishment, planning to reopen the ride in summer of 1996. Well, as work began, they started running into more problems, and once again realized this simple refurb was going to be more costly and time-consuming. The issue was that over the years, the water had corroded many of the metal parts and mechanics, which would now all have to be replaced. This was not worth the investment given how low the capacity was for the ride, so in April of 1996, Disney abandoned all their refurbishment plans and its fate was sealed. September 4th, 1994 was the ride's last operating day. It was sad to see such a beautiful ride go, but thankfully, the Imagineers have left us some hidden Easter eggs and tributes. Now sure, water from the ride was used to christen and open the attraction, but there are actually 2 hidden Nautilus submarines in the Little Mermaid queue. The first one is pretty commonly talked about, so if you stand directly in front of this netting before you enter the indoor part of the queue, you'll find the Nautilus carved into the rockwork. Do you see it? That's the outline of it there. It's pretty cool and it blends in really well. But on my most recent trip to Walt Disney World, I discovered something else. I was at Magic Kingdom right at Rope Drop, and I had never gotten a clear view like this of the queue without anyone in it. So as I was walking through, I took one look at this rock, and then it dawned on me. I think there's another optical illusion built into the queue that makes up the Nautilus submarine. So it involves this rock with the oval center and this piece of shipwreck. Now to get the full picture, you're gonna need to stand a bit further back, right about here. So, do you see it? The rock in the back makes up the circular porthole, and then the tip of this piece of wood is the fin. Now do you see it? Well, this overlay of the sub from Disneyland Paris gives you the full picture. I mean, that's clearly the Nautilus submarine. My mind was blown that I had never noticed it before, and just to make sure I wasn't seeing things, I asked the cast member to confirm, and they said, yeah, that's the Nautilus. So there you go, there's 2 hidden Nautilus submarines in the Little Mermaid queue. Have you ever noticed this hidden secret before? Now, if you were to bring back one of these defunct attractions on the list, which would you choose and why? I'd love to know. Leave a comment down below to start a conversation, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video.